On a busy afternoon in Jakarta in January 2016, three friends met for coffee in a stylish mall cafe. Minutes later, one of them collapsed and never woke up. Police said her Vietnamese iced coffee was laced with cyanide. Today, we're talking about the case that shook Indonesia and the world, the death of Wayan Mirna Salihin, and the trial of her friend Jessica Kumala Wongso, who was later convicted of her murder. Mirna Salihin was 27 years old, a graphic designer from a well-off Jakarta family, recently married and just starting her new life. Jessica Wongso was also 27, an Indonesian citizen who had lived and studied in Australia. The two met at design school in Sydney and were close friends during that time. But by early 2016, something went horribly wrong between these two young women. On the 6th of January 2016, Jessica arrived early at Olivier Cafe in the Grand Indonesia Mall in Jakarta. CCTV showed her entering around mid-afternoon, making the reservation and ordering drinks, including the Vietnamese iced coffee that would later be linked to Mirna's death. She placed shopping bags on the table, partly blocking the camera's view of the drinks. Why did Jessica place her shopping bags around the drink? Was she simply setting down her things, or was she intentionally blocking the camera's view?
Me just, being bored. It really doesn't mean anything at all.
When Mirna arrived with another friend, she sat down, took a few sips of the coffee, and almost immediately began to feel unwell. Witnesses said she had seizure-like symptoms. Her husband rushed her to a nearby hospital, but by 6:30 p.m., Mirna was pronounced dead. Police suspected cyanide poisoning after tests on her stomach contents and the coffee sample, though later experts would argue about how strong that evidence really was. Within weeks, attention focused on Jessica. She was arrested and charged with premeditated murder. Prosecutors argued she was motivated by anger and resentment, claiming Mirna had once advised her to break up with a boyfriend in Australia and that Jessica held a grudge. The trial began in June 2016 and lasted about 135 days, turning into a media spectacle watched by millions across Indonesia. Prosecutors presented CCTV footage, testimony from cafe staff, toxicology reports, and psychological assessments of Jessica. They said she deliberately slipped cyanide into the coffee while she was alone at the table, then calmly waited for her friend to arrive. Jessica's defense team argued that the evidence was circumstantial and that the handling of forensic samples and autopsy was flawed. They stressed that there was no clear video of her adding poison and that other explanations for Mirna's sudden collapse were not fully explored. Despite the controversy, on the 27th of October 2016, the court found Jessica guilty of murdering Mirna and sentenced her to 20 years in prison. Higher courts later rejected her appeals. Years later, the case returned to global attention with the Netflix documentary Ice Cold: Murder, Coffee, and Jessica Wongso. The film interviews Mirna's family, Jessica's lawyer, journalists, and experts. Some argue the conviction was correct and that the evidence clearly points to Jessica. Others question the strength of the forensic proof and criticize the Indonesian justice system, saying media pressure and public opinion may have influenced the outcome. As a result, the story has split audiences. Some see Jessica as a calculated killer, others think she might be a victim of a flawed investigation. In August 2024, after about 8 years behind bars, Jessica was released on parole, though her 20-year sentence technically remains in force, and she will be supervised for years. Since then, she has appeared in high-profile TV interviews, again maintaining her innocence and challenging the case against her. At the same time, Mirna's family continues to insist that justice was served and that Jessica is responsible for their daughter's death. So where does that leave us? A young woman is dead. Another woman, once her friend, is a convicted murderer who says she was wrongly accused. The public is divided, and legal debates about evidence, media, and fairness continue. What do you think about the Jessica Wongso case? Is this a clear-cut cyanide murder, or a conviction built on weak science and public pressure? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and please remember to keep it respectful for everyone involved.